I'm Lisa, and you're with Velo Dulce, the show where we talk women, cycling, and life. Velo Dulce is from the Italian phrase La vita dolce, which means the good life. These are stories from women around the world on finding the good life through life on a bicycle. Hi, welcome to Velo Dulce if you have never been on the show before. Today, my guest is Kim Brearley. She is from South Africa. She describes herself as one of the ladies who rides. I'm not so sure because I think she is superhuman, but we will talk about that more just now. I heard about Kim because we are on a mutual WhatsApp group, and she was doing a ride called the Munga. Now, I hadn't really heard much about the Munga. When I saw the pictures on the WhatsApp group, I started to sit up and take note. So what is the Munga? Well, this is straight from the horse's mouth. Alex Harris, the race director, says the Munga is one of the toughest races on earth. At the Munga, we celebrate what it is to be human. We know the fight. We know what it means to grovel and grind and crawl in desperation to the light at the end of the tunnel. We know what it's like to hang on to a thread, but claw and pull back till it's a tightrope and walk that thin line, balancing the life and death of dreams. Till at last we lean forward and the momentum of action carries us inexorably towards our dreams. At the Munga, we know what it is like to live, but to really live. So, Kim, welcome.
Hi. Hi. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining me. So,
okay.
So for those guests, and just to set the context, the Munga is 1,155 kilometers, and you have to complete it in 120 hours.
Yes, that's correct.
Why did you want to do this?
Okay, the why is always a tricky one. I guess so. Look, I've never really used to do these endurance rides. I was just a mountain biker and did all the normal sort of steps of mountain biking that living here in South Africa we're lucky enough to take part in. You know, we're a big country of stage racing and Sarnie to Seas and Wine to Wales, and as we progress, we do all of these things. About 5 years ago, I had a bit of a crash and I messed up my elbow and my left arm. And I was never fantastic at skills, but I sort of felt I'd lost my confidence a little bit after that. And about 3 years ago, so 2019, I'd always had a dream of riding the Desert Dash in Namibia. And that is I think it's 363 kilometers in 24 hours. Namibia is a beautiful country, beautiful high skies, a special place in my heart. And I then chose that would be my first endurance ride. So that's where it all started. Obviously, there's a lot of training required for this type of riding. It's very different. You do a lot of sort of zone 2 in your training, and you've got to practice your skills like any mountain biking. But that was my first long ride. So I did that and then ticked that box. Very happy, great achievement. Then last year, I had another op on my arm. And when I went, the race came off and I went back out to ride again, Alex Harris had just introduced something called the Munga Grit, which is up here in Johannesburg. And that was a 500-kilometer ride. I think you had 50 hours to do it in. So I thought, okay, well, that's a really good challenge. I got back out and tested my arm out on some gravel roads, and it all was good to go. And then set myself the task of riding the Munga Grit. And I never had a vision at the time to do anything beyond that. But somehow the endurance bug sort of bites, and you just meet the most remarkable people along the way. And then the next thing, before I knew it, I'd entered the Munga in 2020 and did it last year. And then as we do with all of these things, you think, well, let me see if I can improve on what I did before. so you enter it again. So hence I saw myself at the start line this year as well. Yeah.
Now,
So
I just want to set some context, because to present kind of a visual image for people.
Yeah.
The only frame of reference I have is that I once rode 1,200 kilometers on my mountain bike in 3 weeks. But like through the countryside, stopping at hotels, like that's my idea of an endurance ride. This is something entirely different. So from what I understand, there's sections of the race. During those sections, you are entirely self-sufficient.
Yes.
And the pictures that I saw, you had temperatures ranging from absolutely freezing to plus 30 degrees and downpours.
Way more than that. So I think my Garmin recorded 47 as my hottest degrees Celsius, and my friend I rode with this morning, he said 51 on his. So it probably in the mid 40s was where the hottest time of the day was, which was the first 2 days.
Wow.
And how it works is they do have 5 checkpoints along the way, or race villages. You can sleep if you want to. You can get something to eat, and you can refill from a water point of view and hydration. In between those, they do have some water points. The longest section without water or anything is about 96 kilometers, I think, which is a long stretch. In fact, it's 111, I think. But it's a long stretch, so you really do have to be organized, particularly with those sort of temperatures. And it is a learning process, getting the hydration and the nutrition right. And to be honest, I didn't get it right this year. Towards the end of the first day, I actually got heat stroke.
Wow.
Now, that is not something you want to have happen on a ride like this. So I don't know whether the product I was using perhaps didn't have sufficient electrolytes for me, because I was drinking on a regular basis. I was very grateful that I'd actually experienced heat stroke once before, about 1.5 years ago. So I understood it. And I knew that I had to either stop riding or drop right down to zone to try and recover, which I did. And obviously, I then started to put proper rehydrates into my bottle, and obviously a lot of water. So that was a bit of a struggle, I have to be honest, and rode through the first night like that, rode through the second day like that. Unfortunately, on the second day, also had issues with my stomach and got gastro and proper dehydration.
Wow.
So I did face a lot of those sort of challenges in the first 3 days this year. And it really is about managing your hydration. So I didn't get it quite right. And I think also the second day we were into quite strong headwinds in those high temperatures. And it's just fatiguing, it just feels very, very hot. And anyway, I slowly worked my way through that. And I think the first proper decent sleep I got was at Britstown, which is a 400-kilometer mark. So there I rested, tried to eat, but by then I was also struggling to eat. And I think that was because of the dehydration. So lots of lessons learned this time around. But the slower I had to ride to recover, the more I realized time was going to become a really big problem towards the end. And now, but at that point, I was just grateful to still be riding.
Let's talk about sleep.
Okay.
How many hours did you get of sleep? I mean,
look, I did have a bit more rest off the bike this time because of not being well. So I think most of the sleeps are between 5 to 15 minutes. So you lie down, you set an alarm or a timer, and you sleep. And then you get up 15 minutes later and you carry on riding. And those are kind of most of the sleeps. But at the race villages, because I was battling a little bit, I did have some decent sleeps. And I think the longest one, I actually haven't looked at it yet, but I'd say the longest one was probably 3 to 4 hours. It shouldn't be necessary to sleep quite as long as that. But obviously I was trying to get myself back on track. So quite a lot of wasted time off the bike with just bad time management part of it, and some of it, trying to get myself better. But once I was through sort of the dehydration, I mean, I did have a man I met along the way who was actually a lifesaver. He had seen that I wasn't well, and he actually suggested I stop at one of the towns and bought a packet of instant soup, which I did. And he told me where a little guest house was to go and boil a kettle. And I sat there for half an hour and had the soup, and it was the first thing I'd been able to keep down properly. And then the next stop, I had another packet of soup, and from there it was a turning point, and I was back to being okay. So people help you along the way with, the most unusual bits of information, and that man was a game changer for me on this ride.
That's incredible. Is that I saw a video on Facebook. You had a massive smile on your face. So
listen, even when I was feeling low, I was happy.
Really?
You're out in some of the most beautiful parts of South Africa. This ride is a journey. It's an experience. It's about where you go through, the people you meet along the way, both on and off the bicycles. I can't begin to explain how remarkable people are, and sharing experiences. And then, of course, I mean, as you know, we then entered the Karoo area and were hit with one of the worst storms they've had years and years.
The skies opened all their buckets.
I mean, I've never ridden in conditions like that. Strong wind, driving rain. I
actually
flooding.
I actually want to post some of those videos with this podcast, because just to see the videos of I mean, I wouldn't want to be outside for 5 minutes.
Yes, I think different riders had different experiences. I mean, the front guys who managed to do this in 3 days, which is quite remarkable in itself. I don't think they even experienced the weather.
Wow.
Obviously not the rain, the storm. But different people were in different positions when it hit. Those that were on the mountains, I think, got it really badly. And then rivers just started to flow from nowhere across roads, and people were stuck all over the place and having to sleep on the side of the roads waiting for the rivers to subside. I was fortunate that it took me a couple of hours, and then I got into a water point where I could actually sort of shelter for a couple of hours. But there again, it's people opening their homes to you, and you are this bunch of soggy, wet, dirty cyclists, and they let you into their kitchen and into their homes. They were taking out plastic bin bags that we could line our clothes with, and we sort of stayed there for a few hours waiting for the worst to go, and then you've got to just head back out into it and keep going. So you get out there, it's freezing cold after being boiling hot and having that heat stroke, and then you press on. So there's some dark moments, but you learn a lot, and there's always someone who's having a worse time than you are, and you get yourself through it, and it is so beautiful.
That's incredible. I want to talk about mental training.
Okay.
How do you prep yourself? Because I don't know. I mean, first of all, I'm a roadie. Like, going out of my comfort zone, means it means a trail ride around Modderfontein or something.
Okay.
And I don't know. I think, in general, we humans like to stay safe and comfortable. Excuse my dog in the background.
No problem at all.
So how do you, I mean, is it something you actually concentrated on, or is it just an experience for you?
Yeah, this sort of ride obviously isn't for everybody. You are, for many, many hours, you potentially are completely on your own in the middle of nowhere. There are very few towns or villages. So for many, many hours, you may not see a person, and that could be day or night. So obviously it's not for everyone. You certainly feel safe the whole time. You have a tracking device that is on your bike or on your backpack, so there are people watching you and seeing where you're going. I think for me, I love the outdoors. I love being outside. I love the solitude. I love the high sky. I love the peace and quiet. So this time it was a little bit trickier because I wasn't feeling so well. And then just when I did perk up, I then got saddle sores and then saw ITB in me. So it didn't really help. But you still, because just a beautiful cloud will come past, or and you break it down. You're reaching the next point. And small things are, like that gentleman who helped me with the soup. It's such gratitude for such a small thing.
Yes.
And it was a big turning point. And then you'll see someone else who is maybe struggling, and you'll end up helping them. We did get to points, as you know, that it was freezing cold.
Yes.
And I came across a chap who said to me, "Please, can you join me?" And I said, "Of course." But he was so cold that eventually I got his foil blanket out. We put it inside his shirt, put it into the back of his shirt, and guided him down this mountain. But and then a bit later, he kept watch over me when I lay on the road and had a 5-minute sleep. So you help each other with the mental side of it. Yeah, and I think the Munga has a very good slogan. It partly sort of, you begin with the end in mind. You start with the vision of the end, and that does help you get there, most certainly.
Yeah. I read a friend of mine, one of her friends was doing it, and she sent me what he wrote, and one of his sentences, paragraphs, kind of captured my interest. He said, "The Munga is extraordinarily hard. People tell you it's hard and your brain can't conceive it. It spreads you thin and bends you past breaking point, but in the end you win because you are stronger than you ever imagined. And the spirit inside you has no end and no limits."
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, if I think of, I mean, there was a patch. I had a very dark time where I'd ridden through, obviously, a lot of the storm, and then it headed back out into the cold again. And I was riding along in the dark on my own, thinking, I've just spent 2.5 days getting myself through dehydration, and you're now better, and now you're out riding in a torrential storm. Like, what are you thinking? But you've just got to get those thoughts out of your head. And
yes,
you just think, Deepest, how blessed is the Karoo to be getting this amount of rain, and I'm here to experience it and to see it. Some of the sort of, then you're getting to an area where there's a river crossing, and it obviously isn't normally a river, but now it's a river. And you look at it and you think, okay, I wonder how deep this is. And you pick up your bike, which is heavy because it's got your stuff on it.
Sure.
And you wade through it. But you kind of know that the guys who went before you probably had the river flowing higher and more challenging. And it's beautiful. So yes, I mean, I think they always say that at some point on the ride, everybody cries at least once, just from the sheer emotion of it all. And I think that does happen. It's quite overwhelming at times. And there was a lady I met and I rode with her for a very short period of time. But she came into the one water point and I was getting ready to go, and she just burst into tears. And she couldn't even explain why she couldn't stop crying. And it's just the emotion of it.
Yes,
it's hard. It's hard. But it's so rewarding. It is so rewarding. It really, really is.
Is there anyone who kind of goes and does it with a partner, or is it designed to be solitary and you go at your own pace?
Lots of people ride with friends.
Okay.
The thing with the Munga is you're allowed to draft up until Race Village 1, and then you're not allowed to draft again until, I think it's from Race Village 5, you can then draft to the end. So the bulk of the ride, no drafting's allowed. So you have to have space between you. You can be riding alongside one another, but you can't be drafting yourself.
Okay.
And they also start the ride at the heat of the day. So you start at midday. So everything about it is, a tough challenge.
Right.
And you are racing the clock because you just don't, you just don't know what's bringing your way. So I mean, obviously I rode extremely slowly. Well, not the very beginning of the ride, but once I'd become unwell, I had to slow it right down for like 2 days to recover. And that you're under huge time pressure. But then when I bounced back, I rode really solidly. I did unfortunately miss the cutoff by 4 minutes, but that was purely.
I know. So I will give you the background experience on that. We were on the WhatsApp group, and everyone was posting kind of pictures and updates of where you are, and oh my God, you've gone off track. And
no, I couldn't believe it.
Screaming for
the stress, I know.
4 minutes.
So what? I know, and I went off track, and that cost me half an hour. But what happened was, it was jeep track along the side of a railway line, and my Garmin lost the route. And I was now following tracks in the sand, which worked well. Point. And then I got to a section, and there was an option to go left or to go straight. So I looked at the tracks, and lots of tracks went straight. So I followed them, thinking that was the right thing to do. And on that section, I had to get off and walk through water and ride again and walk through. And eventually I landed up with these 2 sections of tar. And I looked at this and I thought, now what? There's something not right here. So I turned around and rode back, but that took me, the whole little outing took me half an hour. So that was half an hour I really didn't have. And anyway, eventually picked up the route again, and then rode my heart out. But just before the finish, the course actually finished, and I also had a bitch there. So couldn't quite work out which path to go towards the finish. So that cost me the last few minutes. But, in the scheme of things, it really didn't matter.
Right.
It was one hang of a ride.
and to make it through to the finish, given how you were feeling.
Yes. No, by day 2, 3, when I wasn't well, I just thought, sure, and I'll get as far as I'm allowed to, and just to keep riding. And I was so grateful that I recovered and could then ride the rest. I was so grateful that I was myself for the last day and a half, 2 days. But there's sections that when I rode it last year, I rode a lot of it at a different time of day this year. So there's a section called the Oberg Pass, which is quite dangerous. It's a very steep pass going down. It's very rocky, and and this time, of course, it was by the time I got there, it was really washed away with the rain. But last year I rode it in the dark, and as I was approaching it this year, I knew I was going to be in the light, and I had to keep saying to myself, well, you talk about the mental thing.
Right.
And I had to remind myself that no matter what it looked like in the day, because it was definitely going to look more terrifying, that I'd done it before. I'd ridden it before. I'd ridden it in the dark, so I could definitely ride it now. And when I got there, it was almost one of the most, it was like a blessing. I cannot explain how beautiful the environment around there is. It is such a high pass, and it is so beautiful that I stopped there and just to take it in. So this ride's really about those sort of experiences along the way as well, and the journey. It's not, obviously for certain people, they are racing it. They are racing it to win. That's not, I'm older. I don't have that sort of ability.
Right.
But it's a journey, to get to the end, and the experiences along the way. It's just incredible. Yeah.
I think it's like the ultimate kind of life synopsis story. You gotta ride your heart out, do your best. You're not in control of the elements.
No, exactly. And and I mean, the thing is, everybody else is going through the same stuff too. So it's just what it is. And the bonds that you make are with other riders and with people who help you at the race villages and the water points. People are remarkable. They really, really are. And the fact that people open up their homes or their guest houses, and they have a very slick operation where at times you could shower if you want, because that's the other thing. You're pretty much in the same kit for 5 days. Well, you are in the same kit for 5 days.
So yeah, just talk us through that, like the physicality,
Yeah, so I mean, you obviously have, the less you carry, the lighter your bike.
Sure.
And so obviously we all still have lessons to learn on improving there, but you have to take all your tools and spare tubes and things like that to do your repair. There are mechanics at some of the race villages, but you need to be able to get there, and there are a couple of 100 k's between them. So if you've got bike issues, you've got to be able to fix them. So you've got to carry that with you. You've obviously got to carry whatever you like to use from a hydration point of view, and a certain amount of food, because you'll get more food at the race villages, and the water points have a little bit as well. But you do have to sort of have that planned. And then fortunately this time I packed the proper rain jacket. when you head to the Karoo, you don't think you're going to need one. But the nights get cold in that sort of deserty environment, so you need for me, I wanted leg warmers, I wanted arm warmers, I wanted a little pair of shorts and a little vest for when I wanted to sleep, just get my cycling kit off. I rode with 2 pairs of shorts right from the start to the end.
Because of saddle sores, or
yes, to try and prevent them. I think because we all got, I got quite wet. I landed up getting saddle sores, which I haven't really had before. So you've got to take all your beams with you. You've got to obviously all your lights, your batteries, your chargers for your Garmin. You've got to be able to charge everything. Headlight. It's quite important to have a light on your helmet, because as much as your bike has a light, you need to turn your head to look where you're going. So there's quite a bit of stuff. The packing can take eternal hours.
And how do
especially trying to make it light.
How do you charge everything?
So at the race villages, they do have power points. Some of them are run off a generator, because bear in mind that a lot of these places don't have electricity. So the race organizers do try and arrange for a few points for you to charge things. But we all carry a power bank with us. So you can do a certain amount of charging from that, obviously. This time I seem to get that side of it right, whereas last year I had some issues with my light charging. So I think each time you encounter some other little glitch. But so I think that side of it I got right, and I was definitely a lot better with my Garmin this time, even though I got a bit lost. I have got myself quite lost before, so I felt I'd improved in that area. But
so they give you coordinates and you plan the best route?
No. You have to ride their route exactly. So they send you a GPX or a fit file, and you download that on your Garmin, and you follow the exact route. And they do put penalties in place. If you've gone off route and it lands up having been advantageous and you haven't gone back to where you got lost, then they sometimes impose penalties and things like that. I don't know how much that actually happens, but it is in there that you have to try and stick to the route. But it's something you should all try.
Well,
it's the hours of training though, and the discipline of training. That's another thing, because you can't just go out and do this. So you have to, your body has to train to the heat. So the last few weeks or month, whatever, I'd go out and do my riding at the heat of the day as opposed to in the morning. And you train in the heat of the day to get your body acclimatized. I was lucky enough to go and do some riding in Namibia for a week, which was really good to ride under the hot conditions. And obviously you practice what you're going to drink and get it right, and you have to get there are quite a few different thoughts on how much volume you ride beforehand to train for this. So people have got quite different approaches on that, so you've got to make a decision.
What was your average training week? Did you ride every day?
No, you always have a day off, but so I did strength sessions a week, I did Pilates twice a week, and then I would do some sessions on the indoor trainer. Those would generally be shorter, high intensity sessions. And then the riding would probably be a bit longer, maybe slightly more zone 2 sometimes. But on build weeks, which I'd have sort of 3 in a row, it would be anywhere between 18 and 20 hours a week of riding. And then you'd come down off of that and then you'd rebuild again. But as I say, some people have quite a different approach and they don't put quite so much volume into it. Which way works best, I'm not sure. I don't know that sort of stuff well enough.
I don't think. I think it's another kind of life lesson. You know, what works for
Yeah.
one person doesn't necessarily work for someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
And
But it's quite interesting. But I think some of the strength, I could always do with a bit more strength training. I'm not the biggest person and I'm not the strongest. And I
how
think,
does the strength training help?
well, I think it just gives you just a little bit more power, basically.
Right.
And I managed to ride, as I say, I rode for me. I rode really well in the last day and a half, and I was surprised at the strength I found. And I'm sure some of that, a lot of it comes from your head, but I think a lot of it did come from the other stuff I do off the bike. It's quite important. I had a go at when was it, in May, I think. I did something called the Freedom Circuit,
Right.
which is
that the Freedom Challenge?
Okay, so it's run by the Freedom Challenge, yes.
Okay.
But it's not the Freedom Challenge.
Right.
That's really big. That's something like 2,300 kilometers across South Africa.
I don't know. 1,155 sounds pretty big to me.
But the Freedom Circuit was the first time they did it this year, because the Freedom Challenge, you have to use maps and self-navigation and a compass. So they decided to try one using the Garmin. There I got infamously lost for hours and hours and hours because my Garmin skills weren't good enough. But that was 700 Ks over 120 hours, but it was a lot of elevation. I think it was 13,500 meters of climbing. But there, a lot more strength training would have done me the world of good.
Okay.
Because you were lifting your bike up over fences, over gates. Even in the Munga now, we had a lift over 1 or 2 gates. So you need to have the strength to, some of the gates are someone who's not that tall, it's a bit of a challenge getting them over when they're so heavy.
Yes.
But so the strength training, I think, is an important thing to build into your cycling training.
I just want to say one thing, that my mother once went with Alex Harris to Antarctica.
Oh, did she? Oh, wow.
She did. And I once did an adventure race, and Alex Harris was obviously not in my team because I don't think I could stay with him for 5 kilometers.
Yeah.
And so I can only imagine any race that he sets is just kind of next level. How much interaction did you have? Like, what was the interaction between the race director and participants, and how would you rate the race?
Okay, so look, you can get their communication is really good right through the sort of getting the prep for everything going. Their communication's fantastic, to be honest. You know exactly what's going on at all points in time. And obviously you can get as involved with them as you want. Up to you. They do some training rides, building up, which are called mini Munga rides, which this year I didn't manage to, I think I only managed to do one of them, but I think they possibly had 3 or 4 of them this year. I think last year they had a few more. But those rides are great. So they do a 6-hour ride, an 8-hour ride, a 10-hour ride, and a 12-hour ride. And they organize that. They set up a couple of water points, and so you learn a lot by being with other people that are training for the same event. They had a partner with them this year, and they also put a long ride together. I can't remember how long it was now, but we all went and did that, and that was really good. I think it was sort of a Oh, I can't remember the distance. I don't know.
Okay.
But, so one of a long ride. It took you into the early hours of the evening, I think. So from the Munga itself, there's a lot of support, and they do plan these training rides, which is fantastic. And then, as I say, they obviously send you the route just a few days before, which you download.
It's not the same route every year.
It has little tweaks to it, I think.
Okay.
I think from what I gather, the bulk of it is the same. But, a farmer might change their mind and decide that you're not going to go through this bit of land, but you're going to go around that way. And that's why the 20 Ks extra got added on this year.
Okay.
There was a new owner of one of the farms, and he'd asked for us not to go through a section of his property.
Okay.
So, you know, I think that, and then also roadworks on Baines Cliff Pass, so they had to move us a different way. So,
Mm.
you know, each year there are those small juggles, I think. So obviously it's becoming a well-oiled machine, and they're getting better at it every year, I guess. And then, you know, the support along the way, you've got the tracking devices, the race villages are phenomenal, the water points are phenomenal, and it runs very, very efficiently. It's a very well-organized event.
And I know you've mentioned the camaraderie along the way.
Yes.
And I also saw someone else was telling a story just about how kind the farmers are.
Oh, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Are they
Yeah.
happy? What is the race for them?
I'm not sure, to be honest, but I think they certainly must feel like they are really contributing, because I mean, we wouldn't manage it without them. Look at it that way. It would be a very, very different thing. You know, it's not like it's such a dry, harsh part of the country that you know, water is a very key thing. And you know, even as it is on some of the longer stretches, you know, you've got to look out for where a windmill's turning, where there's a reservoir, where you can try and get water that is clean out of a windmill, that, you know, the tap that's actually, well, not a tap, but a dam that's actually looks okay.
Mm.
You know, you stop and you climb over their fences and you wet your clothes and your buff and what have you to try and cool yourself down. So yeah, no, what the farmers gain, I think, is that they really are giving an experience to all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. The support is phenomenal from them. It really, really is. I mean, there's a couple of race villages where you arrive and you are shown to this beautiful bedroom, and you think, oh my gosh, do they want me in here? You know? And you know, you lie down and you're there for 2 hours, and then you're gone, and then they've changed the linen. The next person's down
Wow.
or whatever, and it's a lot of work, and they don't get a lot of sleep themselves. I think it's just as exhausting being a support as it is, you know, being a rider. So that's the other thing. You know, there's no support from family or friends allowed along the route at all.
Okay.
Yeah, none whatsoever. So
Okay.
you
I didn't
can't have
know
any of
that.
that. No. So there's no one's allowed to come and cheer you along or anything
Wow.
like that.
That's psychologically significant.
Yeah, I think you know, they're trying to make it a completely, you know, what's available to one is available to all.
Yes.
So and I think that makes it a lot very fair event.
Huh.
Yeah, so they're little things like that.
I just want to say that you said you battled with being unwell. I think that it's quite a normal human bodily response when you're pushing yourself in 50 degrees, that most likely, most people's bodies would be unwell, I suspect. So,
well, look, I think, you know, as I say, look, I think it was more sort of 45 at the worst. But
even still.
But, you know, I think it is a lot of what you learn. So, yes, some people took strain, but majority were fine through it. So I think I just didn't get my hydration quite right. You know, I really thought I had got that right, and I just obviously hadn't. So, you know, there's a lot of lessons to be learned there. I already sort of have some ideas of, you know, just slightly different products at different times.
Does this mean?
Obviously, I need more salt. Yeah.
Does this mean? I mean, it sounds like you're already thinking about the next round. Although you said to me when we were chatting in the beginning, you did your first ride back today.
Yes. No, well, that was partly because, you know, obviously I had saddle sores, so those had to get better first.
Ouch.
And I did go for a run on, I don't know, probably a few days afterwards, maybe 4 or 5 days afterwards. But because I'd also battled with my ITB, that said no. So I had to just rest. And then I was lucky enough to get away to a game reserve. So where there's nowhere to do anything other than rest.
Amazing.
So it was nice to get back out on the bike today. And I rode with a friend of mine today who also did the Munga. And he was riding extremely strong and solid and having a phenomenal ride. And his bike broke. A component that couldn't be fixed. So
really?
800 and something kilometers or whatever he was at, he was out. You know, so it's just these things come your way. I mean, also another chap I ride with occasionally here, you know, he was up with the racing chaps right in the front, and he was having, I don't know what distance he got to, maybe 900 even, I'm not sure. And then he got Sherman's neck. And that's when your neck just won't hold your head up.
Really?
And
I've
yes,
never heard of that.
Yeah, so it can happen on this endurance riding. And I think there were 7 or 8 people that had it happen on the Munga this year. I'm not sure on the numbers, but I know there were quite a few. And, he rode trying to hold his head up.
Oh,
And
my
it just
goodness.
got too dangerous, and he had to stop. And I mean,
Wow.
this is a young person who was right up in the top few riders.
Wow.
And his race finished at 900 something K. So you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yes.
You just don't know what's going to come your way. And I think that's what makes it such a unique event.
Yes.
Is that, well, I suppose any of these long rides are like this. You've got weather to deal with just to start with, and and then how your body's going to respond on the day.
Listen, I feel like that in a 4-hour road race. So
yeah.
Yes.
But I think we are so spoiled in South Africa. I mean, let's be honest. We have most incredible riding available to us, from just local rides to the most awesome stage racing to this kind of endurance riding. And we have so much space, and we have such a beautiful country. That what better way to see it than on a bicycle?
Absolutely. I have traveled a lot throughout my life, and I honestly think there's no better way to see a place than on a bicycle.
I know.
So yeah.
And so I was going to say, look, running can bring you that too. I mean, when you get up, you're in a new city somewhere, and you put your running shoes on, and you just don't
for a cruise.
cover you don't cover the distance that you can on a bicycle. But also lovely to see
who was crucial for you in your training?
Okay, I did have an online coach called Kagan, and he helped manage my program, so that was obviously really, really important.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mark, who does the, I think you obviously know Mark, on the same group. Yeah, so I was, I didn't manage to get to many of Mark's skills sessions, but over time, I have had some one-on-one sessions with them, or smaller groups, and I have met to a few of the ladies' skills things. I didn't manage to make many of them in the last 4 months for a variety of reasons. But I think all those things over the years, they
add up.
Yes, they add up. And as you're busy encountering a particular type of terrain, you hear Mark's voice in your head.
Yes. I often
I'm
hear
sure you can relate to that. So, I mean, you can relate to that. But it's the people you train with. So I have a friend, James and Kevin and Calvin, and we rode together a lot. And with COVID, we were obviously not riding in the big groups, like I would normally. So we were just in smaller groups, setting out and doing these rides. And then wives, spouses, partners, would support or what have you. So that was fantastic. So it's a bit of a team effort getting you to the start line, I think.
Absolutely.
And it's also your family, because you now have to be disciplined to fit in these rides, particularly when you're heading out on a weekend to do a 10 or 12-hour ride.
Right.
Even an 8-hour ride, takes up
a lot of
part
time.
of everyone's day. Yeah.
A lot of time.
So I think there are a lot of factors that get you there. As I say, Tegan oversaw my program from an online capacity and would remind me when I needed to rest, because the rest is just as important as the rest of it.
Absolutely.
And that discipline of zone 2 riding, to get the endurance in.
Low heart rate.
All of that. So, those things you learn along the way. So yes, having a coach definitely helped.
Your biggest takeaway and where to from here?
Sure. This was a different year. There's so much. I think this time just watching people help each other was huge. Watching people that are literally feeling broken at the time get themselves back going. It's quite a remarkable thing to experience. And it is so beautiful. obviously, big lessons to me from a hydration point of view, and I've really got lots of room for improvement. And also managing time off the bike. This time I feel that was a little out of my control, but managing time off the bike just as a game changer, because you really don't want to be under the pressure I was under
Right.
at the end. If you can avoid putting yourself into that position. I look at it and I sort of finished half a day earlier last year, and you think, where does this difference lie? But it was as clear as day, just in, not feeling so good. But take away from this is that it's a remarkable event, a wonderful experience. And
I think in anyone who knows you, I don't know you personally prior to our conversation, but in my eyes, you finished the Munga.
Yes, exactly. I mean, even in mine, I did, so it's fine. That 4 minutes doesn't.
It doesn't matter. I mean,
no, it doesn't matter. It's particularly with the conditions of this year. It's just what it is.
Absolutely, those conditions were brutal.
Yeah, the rain was a challenge, but it was just also such a blessing. I mean, it's just remarkable to see how I can't explain how beautiful Karoo is with water in it. So there's always is an upside. There really always is an upside. True. And even for those that were out, had things go wrong with their bike, whatever. I mean, we all went through things. Nobody gets to the end. Well, not many people get to the end and think, well, that's it. Most people get feeling really positive and actually almost ready to take it on the following year. There's something about it that you just feel you're going to go back.
I really feel like there is no greater metaphor for life than a bicycle. And I often think like it's all over. And you can apply that in your life. Many people have had challenging years or challenging things happen, and you feel like, oh my goodness, it's all over. But it never is. And like you say, people help you along the way. You help people. You get back up, and off you go. And there's always beauty.
And it's the tiniest little things that make the difference. It's really, the smallest things. And it's. I think with all of this kind of riding, I'm also on one of the freedom groups, and I mean, that's a whole different ball game altogether. And listening to how everyone on that group shares information and knowledge and experience, this is about assisting others and introducing others into this kind of riding. And, it is truthfully within most, if I look at the ladies group, most of the ladies on there, if they were happy to be out on their own, in the dark, etc., most of them could train and achieve this. It is in your head a lot, but it is a goal that can be achieved by a lot of the people that we know. It's just a case of being able to do it. Look, I mean, all these have a cost attached to them, obviously. Sure. So there's always that to consider, and something that one can work towards.
Yeah. And where to for you now?
Well, I've still had this looming challenge of Joburg to Sea, because I've never done it, and I entered it 2 years ago, and obviously with COVID it just keeps being moved. So I've got Joburg to Sea coming up next year, hopefully, depending on what happens with COVID. So that's going to be. I'm not sure if you've done it. Have you done Joburg?
I haven't.
Yeah. So that's 9 days, I think it is. Yeah. And obviously completely different riding, because it's all mountain biking and single track and what have you. So that's an event for this coming year. The rest of it I haven't looked at yet. But I think also, we're obviously all waiting to see what happens with COVID and what's going to be available closer to the time, I think.
Yeah.
Well, and have you got any events planned and lined up?
I don't have any events except to ride with my Mikeys.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah,
that's always the best.
Yes, I have a best friend in Mauritius, and my plan is to ride my bicycle with her and the rest of my Mikeys, and that would just make me so happy.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that is it. And that is what, cycling is just so sociable, and you meet such wonderful people, and it doesn't matter what kind of riding you're doing, whether you're going a little local loop like we did this morning and then stopping for coffee and what have you before heading home, or whether you're on a stage race, or whether I mean, if you think back, I remember making my first 10 kilometers and thinking, wow, I've ridden 10Ks.
Exactly.
And then you eventually ride your first 100 kilometers and you think, jeepers.
Well, exactly.
You know, and now, you know, I look at how far I've come and I just think, jeepers, how on earth did this all happen?
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. I have a
especially
friend,
when you're just doing it for fun.
yeah, I have a friend here. He is 83.
Oh, wow.
And he is a machine on his bicycle.
Fantastic.
And I must say, so now I live in Spain and it's beautiful. I live in the mountains here. It's really magnificent, but it's freezing cold. And he's in my group and he said, come cycling tomorrow. And I call him the boss. And I was like, but boss, it's so cold. And then I was like, you know what, Lisa, if your 83-year-old Mikey can ride and go and have fun and have coffee, off you get out of bed and off we go.
I know, and I bet you loved it. I bet you absolutely loved it.
Totally. So that's my plan tomorrow, and that's my plan for the year.
Wonderful. No, but I think, I mean, it's so rewarding. I mean, I look at, you know, we don't all do the same events and we don't all take part in the same things, and we don't, but you ride and you have this wonderful bond with your fellow cyclists, and yeah, it's because you go through such wonderful experiences together and hardships together. Deep dark moments.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Well, Kim, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you.
Thank you, Lisa. It's been lovely chatting to you, and I hope I've given a bit more light on what the Munga's about.
Thank you.
It's an awesome event. Absolutely awesome event.
Thank you. My name is Lisa, and thank you for joining me. You know what to do. Subscribe, please share with a friend. Most importantly, get on your bicycle, drag your mates, drink some coffee, and I will see you next week for another episode of Brearley, and the Good Life.